Hello, it's Elizabeth Conley from Interview Skills Clinic. Today I'm reaching out really to all the students and graduates who are applying for internships, placements and graduate jobs, and even actually students at school who are applying for apprenticeships. This is a really busy time. Deadlines are coming up and many of you have probably progressed through the online tests, through to the video interviews, and hopefully from the video interviews you're going to go forward and have the assessment day where you're going to also have further interviews. Now for some of you, or for many of you, you may have got rejected along the way, and I know that it's really disheartening and it is so easy to give up, and it does feel like a personal rejection. It really isn't. I mean, I know it feels like that, but actually this is a number game. And this basically means you wouldn't have been invited to the interview if they didn't think that you had, perfectly sufficient skills and experience to do the placement, internship or job. This is really about how well you performed and how well you promoted the skills you've got in the way that they're assessing you. All right. So please don't give up. Just keep on going. You've still got plenty of time. You'll always, some of the deadlines aren't until the end of January. So we've got time to actually apply for some more. So let me just give you some tips where you might be going wrong. And let's see if we can turn around some of these interviews for you. First of all, you do need to have some examples. Now, many of you may not have heard of the STAR acronym. If you haven't, you can go onto our website, interviewskillsclinic.co.uk, and you can download our interview preparation guide, which will help you develop a STAR example which can be used against different behaviours and competencies. And we talk about those in the guide as well. So that would be really useful for you. So you do need examples. And those examples have to be sufficiently detailed. And that's why the STAR acronym is quite useful, because it puts more emphasis on really what was I thinking, what did I do, and how did I do it. Secondly, you need to be able to adapt to different questions. So a common mistake is that people will go onto Glassdoor and they will type in to see what questions come up. Now, this is something I ask my students that I'm coaching to do as well. I'll say, go onto Glassdoor, see what some of the questions are. Let's see if they're any different to the ones that I've already got. But what we don't want you to do is only prepare for that set question, because the difficulty with doing that is you will be asked different questions on the day. And if you've only prepared for one example, it's virtually impossible, unless you're a really great communicator, to actually be able to adapt your example to a different question, unless you're prepared more flexibly and have practiced how to do it. All right. So if I said to you, for example, let's say the behaviour, the competency they're assessing you against, which is common across many of these different placements and internships and jobs, is your organisational skills. OK, and you've prepared for the question, tell me about a time when you had to manage multiple priorities. You think, great, I've got that one. I've got that really prepared. But then you go into the interview and they say to you, what's the last thing left on your to-do list? And that completely throws you. And you might sort of come up with actually what is the last thing left on your to-do list. But it's a very, very basic answer. And there's just not enough detail there to actually get a good mark against the behaviour and competency organisational skills. So you need to go into much more detail about why and talk about how you've managed different priorities and how you've done that in order to get that onto that position. But also, ideally you would sort of say, I can give you an example, of why, why I'm managing different priorities and why this is the last thing left on my to-do list. So you need to dive down into a little bit more detail. Thirdly, I really think the other key area which gets lost on the video interviews, and I know it's difficult, I'm talking to a webcam, so it's difficult to really get that connection on those video interviews, as opposed to if we were talking in person. But when you have these interviews, you need to engage. So the people need to feel when they're watching this video and when you have a live interview that you're actually engaging with the question, and therefore you're engaging with the interviewer. Because if you look at all these different roles, they all want collaboration skills, they all want the ability to build relationships, they want your ability to have interpersonal skills. And therefore, it's very difficult sometimes to demonstrate that. If you, for example, are just reading from your notes, you've got your notes down here and you're reading from your notes and looking up occasionally, and I totally get it, you're trying to remember everything, you're feeling nervous, but it means that you're just not quite engaging in the right way. It's better that you are, but actually get a sense of you as a person. And if somebody says to you, tell me, what's the last thing on your to-do list? The first thing I'd say, oh gosh, that's a really unusual question. Let me have a think about that. Well, what I've got on my list at the moment is da, 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 and actually why I've got it. But I'd engage with the question as if the person's really there, as opposed to going, oh, well, this the last thing on my to-do list is, buying Christmas presents. I don't know, because we're coming up. Would be the last thing. It's not a big priority at the moment, is it? We've still got a month before Christmas. So that's really important. Okay, try and engage with the question as if the interviewer was there. Fourthly, there's a tendency to prepare examples, but to prepare examples which sound a little bit like veneer examples. So, and what I mean by that is everything goes according to plan. Everything is lovely, and I did this and I did this and I did this and this is the result, and what we really need is a challenge. So if I was to say to somebody, tell us, what's been your most significant achievement, and the achievement doesn't sound really challenging, then they're not going to get a high mark. But equally, if I was to ask somebody, tell me about a time when you were working in a team, there are lots of examples of working in a team, I'm sure, from jobs you've got and projects at school and at work. But a stronger example would be where things went a little bit wrong, where there was some challenge, maybe not everybody agreed. And I know, it's at university, there's plenty of times you're working together on projects, not everybody puts the same commitment time into it. You may disagree on what the topic is going to be, nobody's leading it, so there's lots of stuff that can actually go wrong. So, focus a little bit more on that challenge, and that really makes a difference. I suppose fifthly, I think speak a little bit louder. So sometimes, because we are nervous, and understandably nervous, there is a tendency to lower the voice, or to start off quite confidently when you're giving your example or giving your answer, but then for the voice to sort of tailor away at the end. And that sort of just shows us as an interviewer that you're not very confident in what you've said. So you sort of just generally don't get the highest mark that you can. So really keep up that energy level and keep up the enthusiasm and confidence throughout your answer. Even if you don't feel as confident, it can really help. And then I think probably the sixth tip I want to share with you, which I know all of you will do, and you will say, well, I'm actually doing this already, is you really need to do some research on the company. Now, I often hear answers that just sound as if the facts are coming from the website. And I do get that, because the facts are coming from the website. And most of these companies give a lot of material out there. But the difficulty is, if you imagine that's your question, you've been asked, why do you want to join us? Why do you want to join Mazars? Why not, Deloitte? Why, etc. So why do you want to join us? All these companies need stroking. Okay. So, and what I mean by that is they want people who really want to work for them. And the whole culture in these organizations, I mean, when you look at the values, they're all quite similar. So sometimes it's quite difficult to differentiate, but you've got to show that you really can differentiate, and you've put in that extra effort. And, often they've given you a link to an employability hub. They've shared case studies with you. You can sometimes go onto their social media accounts. You can reach out to people. You can go along to induction evenings or online versions of it. But you need to share sort of almost anecdotal stories of why you want to join them, as well as the facts. So that answer needs to stand out, because if it doesn't stand out and somebody else's answer does stand out, then actually in the competition you just literally lose out. And that's quite easy to do. It just means that you've got to spend a little bit more time doing it. And I do get that when you are putting in your assessment tests, you don't know whether you're going to get through. So, you might leave it, and then when they invite you, you might only get 5 days, including weekends, and you might already have assignments that you have to do. So everything feels a little bit rushed, whereupon you can prepare for the general questions beforehand. But if you're applying to lots of organisations, and it is a little bit of a numbers game, then you don't want to spend lots and lots of time. But when you get that invitation, I really think it's worth spending some time and connecting, whether that's on LinkedIn or on social media or whatever media channels they use, to try and see how you can make that answer sound a little bit different, and that you're really, really enthusiastic about joining them. Right, well, we covered six tips there. So, please do, look back at the video, really apply those. I promise you it makes a difference. If you want some help, we have lots of help available. We have one-to-one coaching that's available. We have coaches in our team, a very small team of 5. Georgina Cavesi ran graduate recruitment at KPMG for many years, but we've got very experienced coaches in our team that can help and support you. We also run a graduate or student program, which is 6 hours of coaching that you can dip into and use when you need for your interviews. Everybody who goes through that process succeeds. And we've also got an online course, which is a much more cost-effective way. If you don't have the support of, not all mums and dads have the money to help and support you through coaching, this is a really very good way of doing it, where you have access to 30 videos, which can really help you understand what interviewers are looking for and to practice. So lots of different options there. Hope that helps. Good luck with your interviews. Don't give up.